Hi, I'm Miss Vidali, and I am here to talk to you about Chapter 7 of To Kill a Mockingbird. It starts with Jim being moody and how he was in a mood for a week after the whole situation with his pants and the Radleys. And so one day, finally, after he got out of his slump, he said to Scout that there's something that I need to tell you, Scout. And she said, about what? And he's like, about the night. And so she knows exactly what night he's talking about. And she goes, you didn't tell me anything about that night. So he says, but I just want to let you know that when I went back from my pants, they were stuck in the fence and they were actually laying over the fence and they were fixed, like someone was waiting for me to come get them. And Scout's like, that's really weird. And he said, yeah, it was like some lady had sewed them up very nicely and put them over the fence waiting for me. And so he's really concerned. He said, how does someone know me? How do they know that I'll come back? And how can they anticipate my moves? And Scout goes, I don't know. I live with you and I can't even, anticipate what you're going to do. So he's really befuddled and he's feeling kind of strange and maybe a little bit violated, although I think he's a little thankful at the same time. But anyway, they continue to go on and they're back to school and they go by the knothole again in the tree and they find a ball of gray twine sitting in there. And so they realize that this is somebody's hiding place and they have a conversation about if it's right or wrong that they take the items in there. They think it's for somebody else and not for them at the time. And so they have that conversation and Scout talks about how miserable the second grade is. It's so terrible, it's boring. And Jim says, don't worry, Scout. It wasn't until the 6th grade that I learned anything of value. So you just hang in there and it will get better, especially by the 6th grade. So she tries her best and she takes her brother's advice. And she keeps chugging along. But one October afternoon, they go by the knothole again, and they saw something white inside this time. And he pulled out 2 small, dolls carved out of soap. And so one was a figure of a boy, and one was a figure of a girl with a dress. And so then Scout started to look at Jim, and she noticed that his hair kind of fell in his face, and in person, and also in the soap doll. And that's when she figured out that the dolls were of them. And then Jim has a hard time understanding this. I think he starts to realize that those gifts were placed there for the kids. And so after they were freaked out, then they started to admire the craftsmanship and how good it was. And they start talking about who it could be, maybe Miss Avery or maybe Miss Stephanie's sweetheart because they are carvers. And then when they realize that that's not the case because those people don't know them very well, that they just kind of chalked it up to, I don't know, it's somebody, but we ought to thank them for the gifts. And so they came up with the great idea to write a letter to whoever is putting the gifts into the knothole for them. And they got some chewing gum and some other prizes, a pocket watch, a gold pocket watch that didn't even work, but it had a chain with an aluminum knife, and it might even be real gold. And so they're feeling grateful and thankful. And so they go ahead and they write a note and they say, Dear Mr. And then they say how they appreciate the gifts and that they put into the tree for them. And he signs his name, Jeremy Atticus Finch. And Scout urges him to say Jim because apparently this person knows them, but they won't know him as Jeremy Atticus Finch since that's his real name. So the next day, they're about to put the letter in the knothole to thank the person, whoever is giving them these generous gifts. And they are shocked. Jim is staring at the knothole in disbelief. He goes basically white because someone filled it in with cement and there's no way to put anything in there. And he is just speechless. And so he waited there because he knows that Mr. Nathan goes by that place the same time every day, but he did not that day. And so the next morning, he's doing the same thing, and he says, Heidi-do, Mr. Nathan, how are you today? And Mr. Nathan acknowledges both of the kids and says good morning to them. And eventually, Jim goes, did you fill in the knothole with cement? And Mr. Nathan says, yes, I did, because the tree was very sick. And you, Jim Finch, should know that sick trees need cement filled knotholes to help them live. And so he takes that and he goes home to Atticus and he asks Atticus to look down yonder at the tree in the Radley lot and asks him if the tree looks sick. And Atticus says, no, the tree looks really good. It's as healthy as you are, Jim. And he goes, well, Mr. Nathan said it was dying. And so he goes, well, Jim, maybe Mr. Nathan does know his tree better than we do. So you should just respect him And so the chapter ends where Scout notices Jim silently crying, and she feels bad for him, and she's surprised that she doesn't hear him. He's just silently crying.